May have the Anderson County School District 2 Board of Trustees, please come forward. If Sam will come and.
Well, I thought somebody besides Sam.
Oh, okay. Whoever Dr. Rosenberg has, please come forward.
Hayden, come all the way up to the front. This is Hayden Boatwright, who will lead us in our pledge.
Okay.
Where you got us, you're perfect. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have the adoption of the agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Thank you, it passes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. We had 3 meetings, October 14th, November the 4th, November the 7th. Let's just take them all together unless there is some discussion. Do I hear a motion that the 3 sets of minutes be approved as presented?
I make a motion that they be approved.
Thank you. Second? Second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Next, we have recognitions, and Dr. Rosenberg.
We have 3 different groups that we're going to recognize tonight. The first group is 4 students that completed the access testing. And let me just share a little bit what that's about. And Frank, where are you? Okay. Frank Mingus is going to be helping us with some interpretation. So if I go too fast, you know how to slow me down. Okay? To demonstrate English proficiency and exit the English to speakers of other language program, a student must achieve at least a 4.4 overall composite score, and they cannot get lower than any 4.0 on any of the other domains. It's one of the toughest tests our students have to face, and it's a real big challenge because they have to score in listening, reading, speaking, and writing on the state assessment tool, which is called Access. We had 7 students recognized for the achievement, and tonight we have 4 that are here. We're going to celebrate and honor for them. So, do you need to say something right now?
No, I just put it to them already.
Okay, all right. So, we're going to recognize these students, and you'll just come forward, and we'll be glad to shake your hand, and we'll have a little certificate for you. And we have Leilani Fuentes. Congratulations. Miriam Pedraza Ruiz. Good job, Miriam. Frida Delgado. Good job, Frida. And Ismael Sabalos. Did I say that wrong? I did really good. It should be the white. I also want to, Ms. Blackston, where are you at? Robin Blackston, I believe Ms. Johnson's not here. Ms. Blackston is one of our teachers that work with our students, and so she takes a lot of credit in making sure they get where they are. But I'm so proud of you guys. That's not easy, so well done for each one of you. We have a couple more groups we're going to recognize real quick, and then we'll let all of you guys go. So if you want to just kind of ease that way down to Mr. McCall, and then we'll get another group in here. Before I bring all of you up here, Bella, I think you volunteered to go first, or you got voluntold, so come up here real quick, Bella, and Harrison, just come on right behind her if you don't mind. All of these folks here went this summer to Boys and Girls State. We sent about 10 to 12 each year. Very proud of them, and it's easy to recognize them. They go because they're nominated. They have to go through an application process. I believe you have to write an essay.
The girls did.
Girls did, did you have right?
Yes, sir.
Girls The qualifications have to be involved in several different things going on at school, and I believe your GPAs has a little bit there too, is that correct? So, before we recognize all of them, Bella, what was so cool about Girls Day?
Well, it was a bunch of girls that were a lot like you, and they cared about your grades, they cared about what was going on in our country right now. Girls State taught you about local and national government, things that I don't think I knew before, and I'm sure other girls that went with me didn't know. We got to know the importance of local and national, but I think a lot of the focus was on the local government and how we really have a way to get our voices out there if we try, and it's just as important as national because it's right here, right now, and you can get a lot more done in your local government than in the national. It was also really inspiring because you got to meet a bunch of girls that are really nice, and I personally have met one of my best friends, I think, for the rest of my life there. I'm sure a lot of other girls have. I still talk to her every day, and you know, so many girls. Tennis season, I saw like 3 girls from Girls State, from across the state, and that was really cool. It was just really nice, and it was an honor to go. American Legion did so much. There was girls at Girls State that didn't even know what American Legion was when they got there. Their school did everything, and some of them had to pay. We didn't have to pay but $40, and they were so upset that we had to, but they were like, it was the only thing that we couldn't pay for. So I just feel really honored that our post and everyone in it was very just supportive of us and so nice to us. So it was a great experience, and I'm very glad that I got to go.
Thank you, Bella. Harrison, Bella had to write an essay, and she also did a great job here, so it's your turn on that.
I'll try to do as good. So Boys State over the summer was a great experience. You got to meet a lot of nice people who were going to do a lot of big things in life. I got the opportunity to speak in front of many people, and so that was a great experience. You really learn how great our community is. You got to send 9 people to Boys State when most could only send 2 or 3. So I'm really thankful to come from such a great community that values things like Boys State, and it was a really fun experience. I learned a lot about local and state government, and I took away a lot.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Each one of these guys and girls that you see up here, we're not going to let them all speak, but they all could. And they could all say quite a neat thing. So I'm very proud of each one of them, but we do want to recognize them at this time. So starting off, Lucas Henderson, Will Yates, Bella Galloway, Megan Lawless, Dodson Wood, Skylar Whitfield, Rebecca Simpson, Hayden Boatwright, Will Blackston, Spencer Sharp, Kaylin Wilson, Harrison Price. Really proud of all those kids. That's pretty impressive. Jacob, come on up here. Jacob Long received the Nathan M. Wolf Law Enforcement Academy Cadet nominee. So very proud of you for doing that. Good job, well done. And good job in football too, so thank you. How about a big round of applause for all of you? Parents, thank you for taking the time out to be with us tonight and celebrate with our students. You're welcome to stay, and you're welcome to leave if you'd like to as well. So thank you for coming out here and celebrating them.
Our next item on the agenda is public participation. We have Mr. Richard Taylor, and I'll ask him to come forward for his public participation. Is Mr. Taylor with you? I'm sorry. And you know, I'm sure they told you that there was 3 minutes.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I had just a couple of things to talk about, please. One was the evaluation of the superintendent. The board changed the evaluation of our superintendent in the last month. Obviously, 4 of you thought that you had a good reason for doing so. So what I'm asking is, could I please have a copy of your new evaluation first and your old one, just to see the difference? I feel as a citizen, I just want to look at that and see what's going on, please. And also, can one of the 4 please explain to me your reason for doing that evaluation? And
Does anybody want to speak to that?
would one of you mind emailing me sometime in the next week? Ms. McDonald has my email.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that, thank you. As you know, Mr. Chapman never had an evaluation while he was superintendent in District 2. However, when Dr. Rosenberger was hired, he asked for an evaluation to be done on himself. I appreciate Dr. Rosenberger wanting one so he could see where the board thought he needed to improve. We all know that no one is perfect. So it is a way that we can see the areas that we need to work on. It shows he is very conscientious, wanting to do his best for the students and the teachers he serves. Secondly, I want to talk about the test scores that we saw at the last meeting, please. When Ms. Bryce showed you the different test scores and how they improved over the years, everyone in the room applauded but 4 board members. Are you not pleased that the teachers and students are performing better in this area? Or are you just interested in getting rid of the superintendent? I really don't understand why you're serving if not excited about these accomplishments. We can all take numbers, and some numbers are easy to be construed one way or the other. However, the numbers I want to give you are bottom line numbers, and nobody can change them. Since Dr. Rosenberger has been here, BHP has quadrupled the number of students taking dual enrollment in 4 years. Average graduation is 87% of the students are graduating for the last 5 years. That's 8% higher than the previous 5 years. After graduation, 94.7% of graduates are going to either a 2-year, 4-year gainful employment or in the military. That is awesome. This is the second highest in the county. Listen to this, please. BHP is the top high school in Anderson County for college and career readiness. I don't know about you, board members, but I think all of us need to thank Dr. Rosenberger and the teachers, and they deserve a big round of applause, because this is a big accomplishment. Y'all may not applaud, Lastly, I looked on the internet, and this was real quick, just one Thank you. South Carolina School Board Association, the role of the school board. Remember, the board is responsible to the community it serves and represents. It is the duty of the board to carry out the will of the community in matters of public education. Not your own personal, but the will of the community, within the boundaries set by the laws and regulations of the state of South Carolina and their county. I want y'all to think about that, because y'all know the will of our community. It was shown very clearly to you on May 13th, and it's being ignored. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item will be our financial audit with Green Family Importance.
I want to introduce Ken Meadows. This is going to be real entertaining.
I don't know about that. More people might have wished they had left. But anyway. Y'all got the financial reports here in front of you, the green thing, and then y'all also got the management letter, the governance letter, also there in front of you. Those are the two standard deliverables that we have. And then y'all also got a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that we'll do tonight. As is our custom, instead of going through the financial statements, what we'll do is basically kind of summarize everything in a PowerPoint presentation and just kind of walk you through that. So if y'all got any questions as I go through it, feel free to stop me and ask away, or ask away at the end. It really doesn't matter to me. But anyway, we'll go through this. Before I really get going, I want to thank Laura and her staff for all the help that they gave us during the audit. We come in fairly, I think this is one of the first school districts that we do. So, Laura and her staff have to close out the books pretty fast for us to get in here and do the audits. And so we appreciate her and all the work that she does for us getting ready for us and everything. So anyway, I'll get going. The first thing that I'll do is kind of talk about the opinion. That's one of the first things you get to in the financial statements. And then I'll talk about the general fund. I'll move on to the other funds, and then I'll talk briefly about the government-wide statements and then some other items of note. But anyway, the opinion, if you read the opinion, it basically outlines who's responsible for what. You'll see that the district is responsible for the financial statements. So they're your financial statements. You're responsible for the underlying accounting records and making sure that they're accurate and proper. And you're also responsible for the internal controls for the district. So it's important to remember that y'all are responsible. We don't come in and set up a system of internal controls. It's up to the district and management to establish internal controls. So y'all should be, periodically reviewing your internal controls, looking at your risk, making sure that the internal controls have been updated to address those risks and everything. So we think that's important. Looking over at our responsibility is to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. So there's a concept of materiality. We don't necessarily audit down to the very last dollar or even the last $100. And then there's also reasonable assurance. It's not absolute assurance. If we were to provide absolute assurance that every last dollar, we'd be here for much longer than we were. And it costs a lot more too. But anyway, the other thing I'll mention is that the purpose of the financial statement audit is not to detect fraud. It's not a forensic audit. And so a forensic audit is much more in-depth, usually on a particular area where you suspect there might be fraud. So it's much more detailed than what a financial statement audit would be. And I mention that because there was a thing down the lower part of the state here recently where some of the board members were quoted, there was an allegation of fraud, and one of the board members was quoted like, well, if we had fraud, we've gotten audits every year, they would have mentioned that. And I just want to mention that because that was a little bit misunderstanding. No, it's not my duty or our duty to identify frauds if they exist. Certainly if there are material fraud to the financial statements, we should identify that. But if it's a minor fraud that's happening out at one of the schools, our procedures aren't such that it's not a forensic audit to catch those. So anyway, also if you read the opinion, you'll see that you got an unmodified opinion. which is the best opinion you can get, so there were no modifications to it. That's the one you usually get, and that most people get, and so that's the one you want. So next, I'll just talk briefly about the general fund. You'll see the general fund had a good year this year. The fund balance increased $848,000 to $7.8 million. So if you look over there at the graph, the fund balance over the last 4 years has shown a nice steady increase there. So this year, you were able to assign fund balance. Got a question?
Yes, I do. That total fund balance increased to $848,000 from that to $7.8 million.
To 7.8 million, yes.
Now,
Increased
what is
800,
that attributed to?
it increased 848,000 to the 7.8 million.
Yes.
What is that attributed to?
I'll cover the revenues, really the increase in revenues and
Okay, that's fine.
really growing it. So I think hopefully if it does not cover it in the next, when I talk about the revenues and expenditures, stop me again and we'll talk a little bit more about
Okay,
that.
that's fine. I was just interested.
Yeah, that's mainly the thing, but you'll see because of the increase, y'all were able to also assign fund balance of $950,000 for future capital improvements. And then y'all also set aside $395,000 for next year's expenditures as part of the budgeting process. So that leaves an unassigned fund balance of $6.3 million, which is roughly 22% of actual expenditures and 20% of budgeted expenditures. So to kind of put that in perspective, the GFOA recommends a minimum fund balance of 16.7%, which is about 2 months worth. And your district fund balance policy is to have a fund balance of 16%. So you're over both of those, so I think you're in pretty good shape, particularly with the funds that y'all set aside for, we're able to set aside for capital projects. So just to remind you, why you want to have an adequate fund balance. Part of it is the cash flows. The fiscal year ends on June 30th, but you've got to still fund the rest of the calendar year before most of your property taxes start coming back in. So that's a major reason why you want to have a nice fund balance. But then you've also got future repairs and maintenance, future capital improvements that you might have planned. And then also it's nice to have a cushion there just for unexpected things. So I'm sure y'all all aware of all that, but I thought I'd just mention it. So next we'll get into the general fund revenues. And this kind of explains what led to the increase in fund balance this year. The revenues were $29.9 million this year. You'll see that's an increase of about $416,000 from the prior year. And most of that is due to higher state funding. The state increased their EFA revenues this year. So that led to about $360,000 of the $400,000 increase there. So you'll see most of your money comes from the state, but a significant portion also comes from property taxes as well, $8 million or so. Compared to the budget, revenues came in higher than budgeted by about $247,000. And that was primarily due to higher than expected local taxes and then also investment earnings. As the interest rates have gone up, y'all have been able to earn more on your investments. So, general fund expenditures were $28.5 million this year. You'll see that's a slight increase from the prior year, about $158,000, and that was primarily due to higher salaries and fringe benefits. Comparing it to budget, you were $921,000 under budget in expenses. So, and that was primarily due to lower than budgeted salaries and fringe benefits. You also transferred out $814,000 from the general fund to the capital projects fund this year. And then you transferred in $156,000 to cover indirect costs that the general fund pays for. So that basically, if you look at your total revenues were $29.9 million, your total expenditures were $28.5, so that's about $1.4 million to the good, and then you also transferred out about $800,000 real roughly. So that's what led to the increase in fund balance this year at a real high So that's the general fund. Looking at the other funds this year, your debt service fund had an $800,000 fund balance. That's about 25% of your annual debt requirements. You took in about $600,000 in local option sales tax revenues in the debt service fund, so those continue to come in nicely. The capital projects fund has about a $400,000 fund balance. That's an increase of about $400,000 from last year. And that increase was primarily due to the transfer from the general fund. And also mentioning you received about $2.4 million in local option sales taxes into the capital projects fund this year. So those local option sales taxes, I think, have been very beneficial for the district. Probably much more so than originally anticipated. The special revenue funds, special projects, and EIA, you don't have a fund balance in those funds typically, but you do have a carryover. And this year, y'all carried over about $600,000 worth of funds for into the next year. And then food service had a $1.1 million fund balance this year, an increase of about $53,000 from the prior year. So that basically covers the funds. No questions on the funds. I'll move on to the government-wide statements. Those are the first two statements that you get to when you open up the financial statements. And that basically uses the accounting basis as if like you were a private business. So if the district was a business, you would have assets of about $60.7 million. Most of that would be in fixed assets in the buildings and lands, $47.5 million. But you also would have had $10.4 million in cash and investments. Looking at your liabilities, you'd have $94.3 million of liabilities. $20 million of that would be debt. And then you would have had accounts payable of about $2.8 million. And then you would have had your pension liability of $40 million. And then the OPEB liability, the other post-employment benefits, mainly retiree health, of $31 million. And both the pension and the OPEB, as we discussed last year, neither one of those are technically liabilities of the district. They're really your allocation of the state's unfunded liabilities. So they allocate, from an accounting standpoint, they allocate it, but technically it's not like you'll ever have to write a check for these amounts. What y'all do have to do is fund the employee charges for those. And as you've seen, those have gone up and continue to go up this year, the current fiscal year we're in. So it's worth noting, you know, there's a big liability and it has to be funded somewhere. So, but it's not technically something that y'all have to worry about, you know, paying off that liability immediately. Your net position, because of those big liabilities, would have been a negative $29.7 million, and the unrestricted portion of that would have been deficit of $59 million. So without those two, you know, if you add both of those up, that's about $71 million. So if you didn't have those on your books, you would be in a positive, and you'd have a positive unrestricted net position of about, if my math is right, about $13 million. So all in all, the revenue and expenses for the year, if you were a business, you would have been profitable, so that's good. You would have revenues of close to $43 million and expenses of about $42 million. Flipping over capital assets, just to kind of give you a brief overview of what happened this past year in capital assets. You had a decrease of $1.1 million. Most of that was due to depreciation of $2.5 million. Offsetting that depreciation, you had additions to buildings and improvements of $1 million. Most of that was the old gym renovation at BHP for about $600,000, and then improvements at various other schools for about $400,000. And then you also bought furniture, equipment, and vehicle additions of about $400,000 this year. Looking at your debt, your long-term obligations at the end of the year were about $20 million. That's a reduction of $2.2 million due to just regular normal debt payments that you made during the year. You did enter into 2 lease purchases this year, one for about $143,000 for 2 buses, and some servers and IT equipment, another $110,000 for that. So debt service payments for this upcoming fiscal year are about $3.1 million. So that's a real brief overview of basically the financial statements. I know I ran through that fairly quickly, so like I said, if y'all got questions as y'all go through these financial statements, feel free to let me know. Even, the angel leads down the road. I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all might have. Looking at the compliance, in the back of the financial statement, you'll see there is a compliance finding we had related to food service and the collateral of the bank balance there. Basically what happened there, the bank balance had built up in the food service account, cash account. Laura transferred it over the first week of July. Technically, it didn't have it wasn't collateralized, and so you had a finding. But as soon as she transferred it into the general fund cash, it was adequately collateralized at that point. So it's somewhat of a timing issue. Discussing it with Laura, well aware of that and what happened again. So I think we're pretty comfortable that that's not an issue going forward. We also had in your management letter, if you read that, that's the standard disclosures we usually make to the board. There were two comments in there. One's the people activity, the segregation of duties at the schools, or lack of segregation of duties. That's the standard one we usually make. We make it to almost all our school districts because that basically exists at almost all schools because just the limited number of staff out there. The other thing is you'll see a comment regarding the year-end closing process, just suggesting some improvements in the year-end closing process to make sure that things are recorded in the correct year and in the correct fund. And I think that's more of just a function of it's only done once a year. So Laura's fairly new with this, and her staff going through it, they missed a couple of things that we found during the audit. But we corrected it, and I think going forward, Laura understands exactly what needs to be done as far as the year-end process. From a day-to-day standpoint, we're very comfortable with the accounting. I think day-to-day, the accounting's very good. It's just really the year-end stuff you have to do once a year that probably needed some improvement. So anyway, that's a management letter. I'm sure y'all can read a little bit more about our comments in there if you want more details. Just in summary, you got an unmodified opinion. The audit went fairly well. And I think you're in good financial condition as of year-end. It's a nice, like I said, a nice trend on fund balance, rebuilding that over the last few years. So, and that does it for me. Any questions? If not, I'll let you say it is our pleasure to serve you. We work for the board, so anytime y'all got questions throughout the year, we come in the springtime and do some interim procedures, and then we're back in the fall for our final field work. If y'all ever got any concerns, please let us know. We usually meet with the board chair and before the audit or during the audit, see if, in particular, just to confirm that. But if y'all ever got anything, feel free to contact me or anyone else in Greenfield and let us know, and we can look at it.
We appreciate you coming tonight.
All right, thank
Do
you.
y'all have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Where do I do it?
Next, we'll go through items on the consent agenda. Laura, monthly financial report.
Yes, ma'am. Page 1 shows our revenues for the month of October. Year to date, we are at 21.7% of the budget, which is a little bit better than the same time last year. Page 3 shows our expenses for the month. Year to date, we are at 27.3% of the budget, which is a little bit higher than the same time last year, but we're right in line with where we were last year. Page 14 shows our cash balance, compared to the last 2 fiscal years. Our cash balance at the end of October was 5.7 million. That's our healthy fund balance kicking in to carry us through October, November until taxes start coming in. Page 18 shows our purchase orders for the month of October. Didn't have a whole lot. The main thing, we got a risk control grant from Skizbit, so we purchased some things with that to help prevent against workers' comp claims. And Title I is spending in the federal grants, the orange category, and then the general fund, the majority of that was our firewall renewal and our web filtering renewal. So, and then after that is just all the detail. Page 26 shows our pupil activity as of the end of September. We ended September with $516,000 in our various school bank accounts, starting with 492 and ended with 516. The next page shows our energy analysis. It's coming down from the high in September, but it was still a little high because October was pretty warm. And we did get a credit from Honey Path from the town for our water at Honey Path Middle, so that was about $1,400. And the next page just shows the detail. And I need to take some of that off. Page 29 shows our sales tax collections. Since the beginning of the sales tax, the local option sales tax, we've collected $9.9 million for capital projects since the beginning of the sales tax. And we have also collected $2.4 million to offset debt payments. The next 2 pages are our project listing as of October 16th, where things stand as of October 16th. We've gotten some furniture for just about every school. We've got some band instruments at both middle schools. We did the turf at Honey Path Elementary, redid the gym floor at Honey Path Middle. Got Chromebooks for kindergarten and first graders. We have given the teacher cadet class about $17,000 to purchase materials. We've also done some HVAC work and just some miscellaneous work. Including our October payment, which was $195,000, our sales tax revenues exceed our expenses by $76,000. So I'm super proud of that. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
And Ms. Cooley, if I can continue with we do have a field trip on there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is Mr. Joyner and Ms. Bolt from PHP High School are planning on a trip to West Indies, and that'll be in June of 2021, so there's going to be some preparation time. You see the cost is about $3,500, and it'll be up to students to raise that and some fundraising. But it'll be a science trip on climate change and some other programs. I think their plan is to take maybe 16 students at the most, but we'll see how that comes in the next couple months. But they wanted to get that on the agenda because they'll have to start doing some fundraising.
Thank you. Is that all?
And then, I think that does conclude our consent agenda.
So that's for 2021.
Right.
So that's,
After we did wine and stuff, did wine, and that was part of the
Right.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So,
Second? Yes. Okay, thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, passes unanimously. Dr. Rosenberg.
Yes, we do have our final three principal presentations, so Ms. Price, I think you're going to.
We are. We're going to start off with Mr. Salzman at elementary school, and then we're going to move to the middle and the high.
All right, well, we've had a great start to the school year this year, and I'm excited to share some things that are happening at Honey Path Elementary. I wanted to start with just a few pictures. I tried to find some that captured a lot of who we are and what we do at Honey Path Elementary, and these smiles are what we do it for. These are the children that we serve and that we love, and we are so excited to share some things that we are doing with them tonight. I want to start with our overall report card rating. As you can see, we had an overall rating of average, which is the same as we had last year. Last year we earned 52 points, and we're slightly lower than that with 50. All right, talking about student achievement, you can see I've got the past 3 years of data here. Sometimes when you look at 1 year, it's hard to get a full picture. So I want to put 3 years of data here so you can see what's happening over time. You can see last year we earned 18.71 out of 40 points on the report card. We earned slightly less this past year with 17.42. In English Language Arts, we had 41.7% of our students meets or exceeds, which is very close to the 41.9% that we had last year. And going back 2 years ago, we're still above the 35.9. So we're moving in the right direction. We maintained in ELA. In math, we had 46.3% of our students meet or exceed on SC Ready. This is lower than we were last year, so we're not pleased with that. And we're doing some things to not only get back to that, but to see it exceed that number. But if you compare it to 2 years ago, we're at 42.8. So we're still above that number. But certainly we want to have more than 50% of our students meeting and exceeding on the state tests in math and ELA. In science and social studies, you can see this year we earned 4.91 out of 10 points. And an overall score of average. Last year we had 5.22, so we're very close to the same. Science, we dropped again, and this is the only subject we've dropped 3 years in a row. We're down to 40.5% of our students meeting or exceeding. That bothers us, so we are looking at our fourth grade and we're doing some things with them to make sure that we start to see that go in a different direction. Social studies, we're at 74.7%, which is exactly the same as we did the year before, and you know that's fifth grade. Our fifth grade teachers have done a phenomenal job in social studies, and they've maintained that score and kept it where it needs to be. So overall, you see the lack of 2 points in the overall score. When your achievement is slightly down, that's where those 2 points are. All right, I am so proud about this. We presented about this in the spring, that we are the first and only school in the state of South Carolina to become a Great Expectations model school. We implemented that several years ago now, and we had 3 years where we kept working towards this recognition. And last spring, we were evaluated and we met the criteria, so we are the first and only school in the state to do this. So we're excited about that, but it's already November. So we are working very hard to maintain that for this next year. In general, what that looks like is we are teaching our students life principles, and we are teaching them expectations. For example, this week, the life principle of the week is service. So we are teaching our students, what does service mean? What does that look like? How are you going to demonstrate that for somebody today? So we are trying to teach these principles and these values to our students, not just so they can do well in school, but so they can do well in life when they leave us at Honey Path Elementary. All right, Mr. Dickerson.
Kind of piggyback on Mr. Salzman, just talking about some of the family events that we had at Honey Path Elementary School. STEM night, which we just had that this past week, which was amazing. We had Scaly Adventures come out, and we had a great turnout. Over 250 families came out. We fed them hot dogs. It was amazing. Literacy night, that happened earlier on in the year. I mean, it was a great turnout as well. Fall and spring book fairs. We had grandparents lunch. Great time to have our grandparents come in and celebrate them and just what they do for their grandchildren. Veterans Day lunch. We had a great turnout today. It was amazing to see our students, like Mr. Salzman was talking about, the Great Expectations in school, how our kids engaged with these veterans and thanked them for their service. I mean, they were not prompted. I mean, they were right on it. I mean, it was amazing to see those. Parent honor roll for our kindergarten families. We had a lot of parents that have been really engaged in their students' learning. So last week we came out. They came out and we fed them Chick-fil-A for that morning for their great work for working with their kindergarten students, classroom visits. Big Read was amazing. We have muffins for mom, donuts for dads, and of course we'll finish out the year with our field day. Field day is always exciting for our kids. I mean, it's just an amazing time. Also, HBA student recognitions, weekly shout-outs. Well, first let me back up. Every week on Monday and on Friday, we have a big meeting with our students and staff, and this is a part of our Great Expectations. We have weekly shout-outs. Principal top Bs, students say, okay, let me back up to principal top Bs. Every month, we have a group of students, both a boy and a girl from each grade level, that are acknowledged for their, how they follow the Great Expectation model and how they, like Mr. Saltzman said, service, how they provided service, how they shown that. So they're acknowledged at the very end of the month. Student safety patrols. Our 5th grade teams in the morning and in the afternoons, they help riders get out of the cars. They greet people as they're coming in the doors. I mean, it's amazing as well. And we have an evening of excellence that we are planning at the very end of the year for our entire school for their awards times. And it's just going to be a great time for us. So, Mr. Saltzman.
All right, so what's next? And I think at the top of my list every year for what's next is I always want to improve our student achievement. We're there to teach our students and we want to see them learn and be successful. So regardless of where our scores are, that's always going to be my top priority, is to see our student achievement increase. So we're going to continue to focus on individual student achievement data and progress. We were just having some meetings today. It's amazing to see our teachers come to these meetings and be able to tell specifically, this child is here and this is what they need. This child is here and they're doing well with this. So our teachers are doing a great job of knowing our students and knowing what they can do to help them move on. We are providing math professional development with Mary Rusga once a month. Our teachers have very much enjoyed this professional development. They always come back excited and ready to plan for the next units of instruction that they have. We also have ELA professional development with Pam Lancaster and Becca Doswell. One of those is occurring tomorrow. And just like the math, it's gone very well. Our teachers are hungry for more because they want more so they can do better for their students. So both of those are going well. Also, we've changed a little on how we're using our instructional coaches. In the past, they were always available and they provide professional development. But we are trying to be more intentional with them this year and having coaching cycles. So they are partnering with teachers, planning with them, going into the room with them, co-teaching with them, and working together as a team to make sure our instruction is at the level that we need to be. So that is going very well. Also, I'm keeping our coaches busy. I wish I had more because we keep them busy all the time. So that's going very well. All right, also what's next? We are continuing to increase our parent involvement. And this starts with our parent honor roll. We thought, what can we do to help our parents understand what it takes to help their child be successful in school? So we started this program this year in kindergarten. So what we have done is we've provided an incentive for our parents to be engaged and be a part of their child's school experience. So parents have a criteria that they have to meet. After the first quarter, approximately 30% of our kindergarten parents met that criteria. So we did. We had them come to school. We provided them with Chick-fil-A. We took a picture with them and their child, and we're going to post that in the hallway. And we want to brag on these parents for being engaged and involved with what our students are doing at school. So if this goes well, we would love to expand it to other grade levels, but we wanted to try it with one grade level since it was a new program. This year, for the first time as well, we did Walk to School Day. I was a little nervous with the location of our school being on close to a 4-lane highway, but we met at Bilo and we had close to 300 people come and walk to school. I was excited because the police had to block off a lane of traffic, and I was excited we did because I wanted everyone to know, look at what we are doing for our students and our families at Honea Path Elementary. We will continue with our family nights and events. I have parents all the time asking me, when are you serving hot dogs again? When are we going to do that again? So I know they look forward to it, and we do have a great turnout, and it's always a lot of fun. The last thing I want to talk about here is our partnership with Carolina Family Engagement Center. Ms. Lorelei Swanson has been working with us. She was actually in my school today meeting with 2 parents, and we're going to start meeting monthly to talk about what can we do to serve our parents in Honea Path, because when we meet the needs of some of those parents, we know we're going to meet the needs of our students. So we are so excited about that partnership that we have for the next 4 years, and we're going to work together to help those parents, which will help our students. All right, also what's next? We are going to continue with our Great Expectations. We are so pleased with the results that we are seeing from that. So we're going to have 2 coaching sessions. We've already held one of those. We have a coach that comes for 2 days. He observes instruction and then meets with teachers and gives them feedback so they can better prepare to implement this program in their classroom. And in the spring, we will also go through another model school evaluation. We want to maintain our recognition, our status of being a model school, so we will go through that again in the spring. All right, thank you for your support. If you have any questions. All right, well, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, good afternoon, or evening now. Ms. Hopkins and myself are excited to be here to share a little bit about what we have going on at Belton Middle School and to overview our data from last year. We've had a great start to the school year, but we'll go through some of the things from this past year with our data. I think that's it. First up, just some comparisons from the last 2 years' report cards. Our report card from this past school year, we went up in every area. The only area we dropped a little bit in was our student progress. We had pretty good growth, especially out of our bottom 20% of students last year, which they weighed heavily, which made it a little bit more difficult to have the exact same amount this year. But overall score went from 41 to 46. We were 2 points away from good. We are still rated average, but we're getting right up there to where we need to be. Achievement's going up 2 points. Preparing for success, which is our science and social studies, up a point. And our student engagement went from 1 to 8, so that was a huge jump for us. So we're excited to see that our student engagement survey points went up a great deal there. Some highlights from that. We had 8% increase in math and ELA, and those scoring meets or exceeds this past year. We had an 8% increase in 6th grade science in the same categories. 96% of our EOC scores for English 1 and Algebra 1. That was a 96% passing rate. And then, like I said earlier, we had a 70% increase in our student engagement survey score on our report card. And looking at some SE Ready data, and this kind of goes back for the past 3 years. The left side here has our ELA as a school. You've got does not meet approaches, meets and exceeds. So what we want to see over the course of time is this side dropping, that side raising, and we've got exceeds going up every year for the past 3 years. Had a little dip last year, but we're back up above. We're at the highest level we've been with meets and exceeds right now, so that's the highest scores we've had. And then on the right side with math, you see the grade is this school year, so we've got a drop and it does not meet. Approach is still right about the same area, but we have meets and exceeds increasing in both of those areas. So we're moving in the right direction. We're happy to see that growth. We want to see it continue to do that, of course. And then with our past data for SC Pass, our science and social studies, 7th grade is the only tested subject in social studies, and it will not be tested after this year. Well, this was the last year for right now, at least until the state maybe brings it back to social studies. Over the course of the years, we had 66% this past year met or exemplary. We had an increase in our exemplary there, so we're excited about that. And then if you look at the science over here, that's 6th and 8th grade over the past few years have been tested. This year is only 6th grade now. But you can see we've had a little dip from the past year, but we've got our growth back up at meets and the highest we've ever had on exceeds when it comes to our science scores there. And then with our EOC data, the last 2 years we had a little drop from 100 to 96% in our passage rate, but we had an increase in our A's and B's in Algebra 1. English 1, we had an awesome year last year with 72% of those students making an A or B on the EOC, and we dropped a little bit to 64% there, but we're still happy with those scores, and our students do well on those. And this was the last year of English 1. I think I took your slide, Ms. Hopkins.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, you can take it too.
Good evening. So we're continuing to focus on our math and our ELA, and we are using our iReady curriculum for those subjects. With our 6th grade science achievement levels, we've been communicating and collaborating with Huntington Path Middle with our 6th grade teachers, talking to the science teacher over there, and using our PLC framework so that we can continue to see the achievement increase there. And then we're working on our at-risk populations, really focusing in on our students. For example, our males that struggle with ELA. What can we do differently to help them experience success? Okay. All right, so these are some of the strategies that we're utilizing this year. So we're continuing with our iReady, and that is our focus, that is our curriculum, and we have communicated that with all of our teachers, and we have seen great progress and results with that. We continue to offer our ELA and our math strategies for those students that need that additional help. So that has been working well for those students, so we continue that this year. Our coaches have been great in working with our teachers, supporting our teachers, going out to observe, giving them the feedback, and working with our teams. We have a focus on results-driven instruction. That's through our PLCs this year. Also, we have our common departmental planning where teachers are collaborating with one another and they're using those common assessments, and then we're using that data to really determine where are our students, what do they need to be successful, and then also the enrichment, because we have some students that are doing well, so we don't want them to fall behind, but we want them to maintain or continue to grow. Also, we have some literacy strategies that have been implemented in all the content areas, and I know our social studies teachers have collaborated with our ELA teachers of how to embed literacy strategies for those students, especially those students that may struggle with reading comprehension, vocabulary. So we have that collaboration going across the school, and then we're excited about our mentoring program. We're really trying to focus on all the kids, of course, but we really want to make sure that our at-risk students are not falling behind, we're not leaving them behind. So we're trying to figure out a program that will work with them. So we're going to kick this off soon with the mentoring program, talking to those students, really checking in with those students, looking at grades, what can we do to offer that support not only at school, but hopefully filtering out into the home as well. This is another new initiative that we are starting here at VMS, and I'm so excited about it. This is our Principals 200 Club. With the PBIS, we are rebuilding our PBIS framework, and of course it's going to take us some time to get there. One of the things that teachers mentioned last year is what can we do now for the students? We want, everybody likes to be rewarded for your hard work, so what is something that we can do to recognize the students? And you know, when you recognize students for good things, then they do well, it increases their self-esteem, then they go home and tell their parents, and then the parents are happy, and we want that to be recognized. So we have our Principals 200 Club. Our theme at BMS is respect. Respecting yourself, respecting others, respecting your school. So what the students have is every teacher, they get a Principals 200 Club ticket. So if they are caught being respectful, not just because you want a ticket, but you're really being respectful of the school, yourself, others, they get a ticket. Every Friday during Warrior Time, we recognize all of those students. They receive an incentive, whether it's a free Chromebook charge, 5 extra points on a test, a string bag, and then they're recognized on our social media page each week. And their tickets are displayed on the front hallway, and they noticed that we ran out of room, so I told them we're just going to cover the wall, and they're really excited to go up there and see their name. And if they tell me that they received a ticket, I go to the telephone to make a positive phone call home, because I know sometimes parents and guardians receive a lot of negative news. Well, we're doing great things and positive things at Belton Middle, so we're going to reach out and give positive news to the parents. And we have actually received positive feedback from our parents and the students that have given me feedback, as well as the teachers with this. So it's working, we're excited about it, and we've also noticed that it has helped with the behavior as well. So good things are happening.
I think that is it, and as always, thank you for your support.
I had a question about the 200 Club.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you only do it for 200 students?
No, ma'am. My original thought, the original principle behind it was for 200 students, but I recognized that that did not work with the display we had, so it is for all students. So it doesn't matter. I think our numbers range. Last time we had like 48 students recognized. I want to see that grow more, so it's for any student, any grade level, any teacher can give those tickets. We give tickets too, and what I like about it is that the students will help each other out and remind them, hey, you're respecting our school because you were picking up, you know, the stuff outside. So I have seen that, them helping each other as well. So it's for any student. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Burton, you mentioned just briefly about English 1 for last year as EOC. Would you like to explain why that's going to change?
English 1, the state is moving to just, I think they're choosing English 2 to be the main subject area that they're going to be using for their ratings going into the future, at least for now. We know when you're at the mercy of politicians, it may change at any moment, but so English 1 is going away, which those English 1 and Algebra 1 kids get double tested each year. which I'm glad they're taking at least one of those away. Those kids have to take the SE Ready test, the SE Ready writing TDA assessment. Then on top of that, they have to take an ELA test and another writing assessment for the English 1 EOC. And our math students have to take that math SE Ready test and then turn around and take the Algebra 1 EOC. So they're tested to death. So, but the state is now moving to focus more on English 2 for that category weight. So English 1 will still continue to be tested with SE Ready in the middle schools, which, again, we're happy that they're not being over-tested moving forward. Good question. Thank you.
So they'll just be tested with 8th grade ELA standards, not, okay.
That is, they'll still take that SE Ready test. They still go through the English 1 standards. They're on that honors track, so they'll be able to move right into that English 2 honors at BHP. But just for state assessment, 8th grade SE Ready, yes. Thank you.
Got one job.
All right, I'm gonna hit the highlights of last school year, and then talk about some things throughout that have kind of intertwined and that we are working on throughout this school year. I'm gonna start with the test data and report card data. Our 4-year graduation rate this year was 86.8. I believe that is the highest in the past 5 years, so we were pretty excited about that. 99% of our freshmen were promoted to the 10th grade. We have our freshman academy, which we started this is the 5th year, so that was the first group of seniors that had gone all 4 years that started in our freshman academy. And we've got a million things in place to help those kids be successful. We've got a teacher whose full job it is to check on them and make sure their grades are on top, and they're calling their parents. I personally met with the kids that were failing every 4.5 weeks last year. We do quarterly incentives. We do lunches for them. Anything we can do for those kids, you name it, we do to get help, because we believe if they get past the 9th grade, they're going to make it through high school. We had 61 kids enrolled in dual enrollment courses, and then I'm going to move over to that other bullet. We had 4, 5, 6, 7 kids enrolled at Tri-County doing HVAC, welding, and manufacturing. We just met 2 weeks ago with Tri-County, and we're actually going to open up our dual enrollment classes to 11th graders next year. So I'm pretty excited about that. We had 130 kids taking AP tests with 43.8% passage rate. That's the highest in 8 years, I believe, our passage rate. The number doesn't seem that high, but I'm more interested in the fact that 130 kids were exposed to AP curriculum. I think that's pretty important. And then 538 kids attended our Career Center. Our AP scores, I'm extremely proud of them. They were the highest that they've been in a long time. Like I said, 43.8% overall passage rate, highest in 8 years. I know this is only the past 5 years. You can see kind of at the top, the 18-19 overall. U.S. history, Mr. Roach, shout out, made a big jump. Biology made a big jump. Our calculus is well above the national standard. We've got some work to do with English. One of those teachers was a first-year AP teacher, so she's learning. Another one went to AP training over the summer, so we are working with those teachers. We lost human geo and macro this year just from, we didn't have enough students to sign up, but we added AP physics, so I'm excited. The same teacher that is doing this great stuff in calc is teaching AP physics, so I'm expecting some good results. First year for music theory, they actually have to sing and record themselves singing. I was pretty impressed by that. It gives a lot of those kids, a lot of our honors AP kids don't have room in their schedules to take music, but they're willing to make room to take AP music, so it gives them that music graduation credit. So we've got kids in there that have never taken a music class in their lives. I thought that was pretty great. Our SAT, ACT data, top is SAT. Just let me go through this real quick. You see we did have a bit of a drop, but in 17-18, it was really just our honors kids that took the SAT during the school day, not overall. And then we opened it up to everyone because the state paid last year, so that's why you see a bit of a drop. More kids took it, and I'm of the feeling that I'd rather a kid have A score than no score at all. If they decide one day they want to go to a four-year college, they have A score, and if the state's going to pay for it, they should probably take advantage of that. The state will pay for them to take ACT or SAT during the school day. But we were still above the state average. So, And then ACT at the bottom, this gold, this is the first year that they made every single kid, every 11th grader take the ACT. It was, you couldn't opt out. Now you're allowed to opt out. But that was the first year. These 2 years you had to take it. So you can see where we compared to the state. We're down a little bit, but we've put a lot of things in place. We started a brand new ACT workshop this year that focused more on the tests and testing strategies and less on let's just practice a million problems. I met with my English department head and my math department head and said, find resources. Let's look at resources and see what we need to be doing on a daily basis to get your kids more practice on these tests. And they've jumped on it and started changing their practices and lining their tests to look more like these. So I'm hoping to see some changes moving forward. Our report card, the most exciting part. Ours is set up a little differently than elementary and middle. The test scores that you see on our report card are the scores of the kids that graduated last year. So they are not our 18-19 test scores. They are the scores, like some of them were actually kids that I taught English to, their scores. So 30% of the report card is English and math, English 1 EOC and Algebra 1 EOCs, kids that scored A's, B's, or C's. And you can see the percentage, but the second part is Biology 1 and U.S. History. Our grad rate I already went over. College and career readiness, we were the highest in the county. 89.3% of our kids were deemed to be college or career ready, so I was pretty impressed. And then the student engagement survey, which is the same as the middle and elementary schools. But overall, yeah, hit it. Hit it one more time. That gave us a 70, which gave us our rating that you could probably hear me screaming when I opened up the portal of excellent. I called Mr. McCall like the second I saw it because I was so excited. We ran around like crazy people trying to get every point we could on that score. It took the whole school to get that, and I was really, really proud of my staff. I was excited. I gave you a copy of this just because this is a lot to stare at, and it's, Mr. Fulton says, you better explain that because it doesn't make any sense. The red is us, that reddish pink color. You can just kind of see where we lined up with the other schools in the county for each section of the report card. That last little column is not a section of the report card, but I just thought it was important to note that 79% of our kids scored silver or higher on the WIN test, and that's the career readiness assessment. And if they score silver or higher, the state deems that they are prepared for 65% of the jobs in the workforce. So we were second in the county for that. I'm pretty proud of that. And actually, it could go up even higher because those kids that didn't pass last year, the state allows them to take it again this year as seniors. So there's a chance that it could go up. But you can just kind of see how we fared in each of these categories. I'm going to let you go.
Wanted to say we had a phenomenal year in athletics. If you look at their slideshow, you can see we had one individual state champion, wrestling champion. 30 athletes were named to all region teams. We now have the Friday morning drop-offs at the elementary school where the athletes go over there and they spend some time with the elementary school students, which is an excellent thing because then they get to see their role model up close and personal. 4 region champions, 7 teams qualified for state playoffs, and 2 region coaches of the year. Student life, if you look right here at the slide, once again, we had another excellent year. 95 students involved in ROTC, recognition of the Outstanding Organization Award from the Air Force. 5 students entered the branch of the military after graduation, which is a great place to start. Renaissance lunch. Assistant elementary school students each period. We have 78 students going on to the elementary schools, which is great. National Merit Scholar recipient. This young man, Reed Shulbred. Think about this. This is phenomenal. Within the past 15 years, you've only had 2 National Merit Scholars. That's in the top 1% of the country. Think about that. Phenomenal, phenomenal is all I could say. Evening of Excellence, 25,500 in local scholarship awards. Think that's it?
One of the other things our students really get to accomplish is to travel. These programs you see here, FFA, chorus, and band, are a big part of that. Our FFA just took about 20 students to Indianapolis to nationals. We had a couple kids that finished silver along the way. Our chorus went to London last year. They're going to Disney World this year. But you know, they're just amazing. Superior ratings. If you had a chance to come out to the Madrigal dinner this past Saturday night, you were blown away. Our band continues to get superior ratings. Traveled down to state championships a couple weekends ago, finished 10th in the entire state. They have expanded opportunities. We now have not just marching band, but wind symphony, jazz band, and all of them are winning awards. Other opportunities, one of the big things here, Instagrad is a program that has been phased in over through the years, and we are now have finally hit that point where it is available to our students grades 9 through 12. So we're finally getting to that point where those Instagrad kids that started as 9th graders are going to hopefully be graduating this fall. We also, our College App Day, we had over 300, of our 277 seniors, generated 336 applications to colleges. Our counseling department does a fantastic job, CDFs, everybody just delving in and making it quite the experience. The kids are excited. We provide lots of support to them throughout the day, and that is generating applications. It's not just to go in and have fun. Other things we've got coming up, we've got FAFSA nights. We have later this week an NCAA eligibility workshop. One of the big things that we are really looking forward to and want to extend an invitation to each and every one of you is that our job interview day at the end of the year in the spring, we're going to have each of our seniors to have an actual interview with a member from our community. So we're going to need a lot of volunteers. All right, but we want them to go through the process of generating a resume and then going into an interview and then getting feedback on how they did in that interview. Again, that's part of that essential skills, the college and career readiness. That is something that all of our kids at some point will have to do, and it would be nice to get them some feedback along the way. These are some things that have been upgraded throughout our school. Big thanks to you guys for funding as always. We got new scoreboard up in the old gym. Tennis courts repainted just in time for our team to win the region championship. New putting green for our golf team. We appreciate the new stripes in the office. Jazz that up from the beige. This is something that these benches are here by our manufacturing technology class. They made those. Those were pine trees that were taken down across the street. And then Mr. Woody and his kids, they did all of the planing, the sanding, the debarking, the polyurethane, and so they look great. And it's an opportunity for when our kids come in and they're waiting for those classes to start for them to kind of rest. And it's a neat thing for them to say that they gave back to the school and built something that is being used. And then of course we've got bleachers in our little gym, which is making that much better for different events that we host. But the combination of the bleachers and the scoreboard makes it more of a usable facility for us to actually use for competitions.
Let me tell you something, those benches are gonna outlast all of us here in this community. They weigh about 1,000 pounds.
And they're leaking sap on the floor.
It took 10 kids to carry them in there. So they're pretty awesome.
They're still leaking sap on our floor. Our custodians keep yelling at me because they want something done.
I get to talk to you guys about three programs actually, that came into fruition last year. So we have continued to improve those. The first one is our Pathway to Teaching. Continued our 4-year program, or extended our existing teaching program into 4 years. Starts with Intro to Teaching 1 and 2, incorporated our Teacher Cadet program, and then this year we have a new course, which is Educational Psychology. We've got 112 students enrolled in this pathway. That is an increase, continuing to see those numbers grow as they move through. They're getting good experiences, Parapro certification. By the time they get to the end, we have a day at the school where they can come in and take that test, help them be eligible for working at daycares, stuff like that. Partnering with Erskine, Anderson, Lander, and the Citadel, get them college credit for some of those teacher cadet and educational psychology classes, and we have gotten them a lot of cool new technology. They have a sit-flat touchpad. 8 or 12 different kids can sit around that and all work at the same time. A lot like this, but it sits flat. We have a green screen where the kids create lessons where they act like they're in a different part of the world, or different scenery. And we've had a lot of cool educational and community members come in and speak. Here you see Dr. Rosenberger came in a couple of weeks ago and spoke to our education classes, so that was awesome for them. Manufacturing pathway, we have a lot more equipment in there now than when this picture was taken. This almost makes it look empty. That is also a 4-year pathway, about the same number of students, 121 in that. And we are currently developing a pathway with Tri-County Tech for a manufacturing certificate, and they can actually get 7 college credits by the time they get done with that program there. If you haven't been down there lately, go check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff that's being put out in the community. They got the newest cool thing is they have a lathe that attaches to the laser engraver that sits in the back. So if you have a cool Yeti mug or anything like that, they can attach it. And we, our student of the months, the last couple of months have actually gotten a mug that, or a water cup that has BHP Bears and their name engraved in it. That's cool. And our Success Academy, this was put in place to initially help our seniors that had already dropped out, that were very close to graduating, had so many credits, pull them back in. They come up here to the district office. They kind of work through virtual classes through Edgenuity to hopefully get them their high school diploma. This year we extended that to, we have some students that had some medical concerns coming through the school day and making it the whole school day. It didn't work for them. Some of them were having a really tough time just getting to school, so we're trying to handpick them before they have the chance to drop out, because once they're gone, it's very difficult to bring them back in. So we have 7 students last year that completed the program. This year we have 7 more students that are in that right now as well, and they're moving towards their high school diplomas.
That's all we got.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Any questions? Thank you.
May I say
Oh,
thank you, Ms. Gordon and your staff. Thank you, Mr. Salzman and your staff. Thank you, Mr. Burton and your staff, and for the great presentations. We appreciate all the hard work you were doing for our students. Thank you.
Yes, the next agenda item is policy CDL staff leave of absences. Brought this to the board last month. We talked a little bit about how to move on personnel issues. And I had a chance to put together with our teacher advisory committee and brought this to their attention. This is kind of a tough one because there's a lot of good input, but the consensus was to do what I put up on the board. I think Mr. McCall put this together. If an employee requests to take 3 or more consecutive days of personal leave during the school year, the employee must put the request in writing to the principal for approval. The principal will only consider requests for extenuating circumstances, and that would be the new addition to the policy. In addition to the teacher handbook, it would indicate that by not being approved for that 3rd day or more, that would be a docking pay. This is the first reading, if the board approves it as a first reading.
Do we have a motion to approve this? So moved. Thank you. Second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed?
We'll bring it back one more time for final approval.
Thank you. And our next one, property discussion.
Well, actually, I'm going to turn that back over to you, Ms. Cooley. These are 2 suggestions brought to you.
Judy, do you want to talk about this? Change 1. There was a phrase in there that I think had caused some confusion, and I think clarification would be worthwhile. Decision to seek legal advice may be made by the board or the superintendent. To change it with the approval of the board. In an emergency situation, that can even be done by law. And then the second one, we had an issue last year with anonymous letters being posted. And there were some concerns that we might get sued because of individuals named and cell phones being used to make pictures. So this simply says the posting of anonymous letters on school property is permitted only with the written approval of the superintendent. Thank you. You've heard the revisions to the board policy ARB DG-4. And you've also heard the additions, revisions to board policy KHC, distribution and posting of promotional materials. Yeah, I'm gonna take the first one. So is that just,
It'd just be for discussion today, and then we, based on the board's desire, that we're taking for a first reading in December.
would y'all like to discuss or anyone have any comments about those?
I'm struggling with the change number 1. So is that saying that the superintendent cannot seek legal advice without the board's approval? Is that what it's saying?
In other words, if there is something that's serious enough to need an attorney, you don't necessarily have to get our approval ahead of time, but let us know and officially get an approval. Just an email is sufficient.
Any more questions? All right, these two will take till next month, and then we'll have
Did you want a discussion on change 2, or is there?
I'm sorry.
Well, there may not be.
Is there any discussion on the change to, which concerns posting of anonymous letters? Is there any discussion on that one? Okay, we'll bring it back also.
I do have one question. And no respect to Elaine, disrespect to Elaine, but would that include the News Chronicle, since they post anonymous letters?
That's not an anonymous letter.
Well, there are anonymous letters in the
It
newspaper.
is in the newspaper.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, the anonymous letters posted in the newspaper do not name names. That was the problem we had with these letters that came in the mail.
So maybe we need to change it to that. See what I'm saying?
I do not believe that we could do anything about letters that are in the newspaper. That's freedom of the press.
No, ma'am, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe we should change it, anonymous materials that name names, if that's...
To me, an anonymous letter is not something that was in the paper. I felt personally that it's very clear about that.
Well, there are anonymous letters in the paper quite often.
But it's the newspaper, it's not.
Well, I understand that, but it's still
Anonymous.
still anonymous, it's still distribution of and posting of materials, so I just want clarification.
Well, why don't you have Mr. McCall come up with the best way that he thinks, since that would be something that would involve personnel.
Could we not ask the School Board Association as well? Because most of the policies come from the School Board Association, the wording was.
We will, with your pleasure, we'll meet together and we will run it by the School Boards Association of all of our departments.
Okay. Our next concern, board policies that we're receiving as information. Roosevelt.
Yes, Ms. Shirley asked, put these in there. This is not asking for any approval or anything else except to have them listed in the board agenda. I think this is a change from E-rate purpose.
Monday night of the meeting. We need to move the time back, so we can go to, those that choose to go to the Christmas concert can go.
What time is that, Mr.
The concert is at 7, 5 o'clock.
Fine. Is everybody in the room at 5 o'clock for our next board meeting? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned. Is there a motion that the meeting?
That's my secret, Bishop.
All in favor? Raise your right hand. Thank y'all.
How long?